I woke up Thanksgiving morning in my son's house, where I had been living for the past 2 years since my wife died. The house was eerily silent. I found a brief note on the kitchen counter from my son Brian and daughter-in-law Melissa. It read, "Dad, we took the kids to Hawaii for Thanksgiving. Didn't want to wake you. There's a frozen turkey in the garage freezer. Back in 10 days. Love, Brian." I stood alone in that massive, empty house, realizing they had planned this luxury vacation for weeks without telling me, leaving me behind like forgotten luggage. The silence in that house was deafening. I walked through the empty rooms, my footsteps echoing on the hardwood floors, and I couldn't help but think about how I ended up here in the first place. 2 years ago, my wife Patricia died from cancer after 42 years of marriage. Those were the darkest days of my life. We had built everything together in our home in Pennsylvania, a modest 3-bedroom ranch where we raised Brian, celebrated birthdays, hosted holidays, and grew old together. After Patricia passed, I couldn't bear to stay in that house alone. Every corner held a memory that was both precious and painful. Brian called me every day during those first few months. He was genuinely concerned about me. He insisted I sell the Pennsylvania house and move to Texas to live with him and his family. At the time, it felt like a lifeline. He had this beautiful 5-bedroom house in a wealthy suburb outside Dallas, with enough space for everyone. He said I would have my own room, my own bathroom, and I would be surrounded by family. His wife, Melissa, seemed agreeable to the idea. And their 2 children, Emma, who was 7 at the time, and Lucas, who was 5, needed their grandfather. So, I sold the house where I had spent most of my adult life. I packed up 42 years of memories, kept what mattered most, and made the move to Texas. Brian and Melissa insisted I pay rent, $1,200 a month from my pension and Social Security. They said it would make me feel independent, not like a charity case. At the time, I understood. I wanted to contribute. I didn't want to be a burden. Those first few months were actually good. I helped around the house. I fixed the leaky faucet in the guest bathroom. I repaired the fence gate that had been hanging crooked for months. I picked up Emma and Lucas from school every afternoon, helped them with their homework, and cooked dinner most nights. I was useful. I was needed. Or so I thought. But somewhere around the 6-month mark, things started to change. Melissa began making little comments. Nothing too harsh at first, just small jabs that stung. She would say things like, "George, you're always underfoot when I'm trying to clean." Or, "Maybe you should find some activities outside the house, join a club or something." Brian started working later and later. He barely made it home for dinner anymore. When he was home, he seemed distracted, glued to his phone or his laptop. The warm conversations we used to have disappeared. Over the past 6 months, the atmosphere in that house had shifted completely. Melissa treated me less like family and more like hired help. She would leave me lists of chores. She would make comments about how I loaded the dishwasher wrong or folded the laundry incorrectly. Brian never defended me. He just stayed silent, avoiding conflict. I started feeling like an unwanted guest in a home where I was paying to live. Standing there on Thanksgiving morning with that note in my hand, all of those feelings came rushing back. But this was different. This wasn't just a thoughtless comment or a moment of frustration. This was calculated exclusion. I walked to the garage to get the frozen turkey they had mentioned. The garage was massive, with space for 3 cars and storage cabinets lining the walls. I opened the large freezer where they kept bulk items from their Costco runs. The turkey was there, still frozen solid, sitting on top of other frozen goods. But then I noticed something else. On the workbench next to the freezer, there was a stack of papers mixed in with the recycling. I wouldn't normally go through their trash, but something caught my eye. It was a printed flight confirmation from an airline. I pulled it out and looked at the date. August 15th. 3 months ago. My heart started pounding. I dug through the recycling pile more carefully. There were more documents. Hotel reservations for a beachfront resort in Maui. A Hawaii guidebook with Melissa's handwriting all over it. Notes about kid-friendly beaches, restaurants that accommodated children, activities for a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old, reservation confirmations for a luau, a snorkeling tour. a helicopter ride over the island. They had been planning this trip for 3 months. This wasn't a last-minute getaway. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. They had deliberately kept it secret from me. They had sat at the dinner table with me night after night, knowing they were going to leave me alone on Thanksgiving, and they never said a word. I stood there in that garage holding those papers, and something shifted inside me. The hurt I felt when I first read the note deepened into something else. It became clarity, a cold, clear understanding of exactly where I stood in this family. I wasn't valued. I wasn't wanted. I was tolerated at best, and only because I paid rent and provided free labor. I spent Thanksgiving Day completely alone in that silent house. I went through the motions of trying to make it feel normal, but nothing about it was normal. I thawed a small portion of that frozen turkey in the microwave and attempted to cook it in the oven. I made some instant mashed potatoes from a box I found in the pantry. I opened a can of cranberry sauce, but when it came time to eat, I just couldn't do it. I sat at their enormous dining room table, the one that seated 12 people, with my small plate of food in front of me, and I felt completely hollow. This wasn't how Thanksgiving was supposed to be. Patricia and I had always made Thanksgiving special. We would wake up early, watch the parade on television, and spend the whole day cooking together. Brian would come home from college, and later, when he was married with his own family, they would all come to our house. We would crowd around our small dining table, elbow to elbow, laughing and telling stories. Now here I was, alone in a house that wasn't mine, eating reheated turkey that my own son had left for me like I was a stray dog. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through old photos, pictures of Patricia smiling in our kitchen, wearing her apron with flour on her nose, pictures of young Brian helping us rake leaves in the fall, pictures of family Thanksgivings when we were all together and happy. I felt the weight of everything I had lost. Patricia, my home, my son, my sense of belonging. Around 3 in the afternoon, I called my younger brother Frank. He lives in Colorado with his wife Carol and their family. Frank answered on the second ring, and I could hear the sounds of a full house in the background. Laughter, conversation, the clatter of dishes, children playing. "George, happy Thanksgiving," Frank said warmly. "How are things in Texas?" "I'm alone, Frank," I said simply. There was a pause. "What do you mean you're alone? Where's Brian and the family?" "They flew to Hawaii. They left this morning. Didn't tell me they were going until I woke up and found a note." "They what?" Frank's voice went from warm to instantly angry. "They left you alone on Thanksgiving? Are you kidding me?" I wish I was. I could hear Frank moving to a quieter part of his house. "George, that's absolutely unacceptable. I can't believe Brian would do that." "Wait, actually, maybe I can." "What do you mean?" I asked. Frank hesitated. "Look, I didn't want to say anything before because I thought maybe I misheard or maybe it was just her venting. But 3 months ago, remember that family gathering at Aunt Linda's that you couldn't make it to?" "Yeah, I had that doctor's appointment I couldn't reschedule." "Right. Well, I overheard Melissa talking to her sister. They were outside on the patio, and I was just inside by the window. George, she was complaining about you living with them. She called you a burden. She said you were cramping their lifestyle. She complained that the $1,200 you pay in rent doesn't cover the inconvenience of having you there." Each word hit me like a physical blow. She said that. "I'm sorry, George. I should have told you sooner. I just kept hoping it was a one-time thing, just her blowing off steam. But after hearing this, about them leaving you on Thanksgiving, I think you need to know the truth." Brian was right there with her, nodding along. "He didn't defend you once." I closed my eyes, hearing it confirmed like that, knowing that my own son had stood by while his wife called me a burden, made everything painfully clear. "Frank, I need to think about some things," I said. "George, listen to me. You don't have to stay there. Carol and I have that basement apartment that we finished last year. It's got a separate entrance, a full kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, about 1,000 square feet. We'd only charge you $500 a month. And honestly, we'd love to have you here. The kids are grown and moved out. This house feels too empty. You'd be doing us a favor. I appreciate that, Frank. I really do. Let me think about it. You do that. But George, don't let them treat you like this. You deserve better. Patricia would be heartbroken if she saw how they were treating you. After I hung up with Frank, I sat in the silence for a while. Then I did something I rarely did. I logged into my bank account online to check my balance. I had my pension and Social Security automatically deposited each month, and I had Brian set up the automatic payment of $1,200 for rent. I usually didn't look at the details very carefully, but now, sitting there with Frank's words echoing in my mind, I decided to look closer. I went back through the last 6 months of statements, examining each transaction carefully. That's when I saw it. Every month, there were 2 withdrawals, the $1,200 rent payment that we had agreed on, and another withdrawal. $500 every single month. 6 months of unauthorized withdrawals, $3,000 taken from my account without my permission. I felt sick. Brian had power of attorney over my finances. We set that up after Patricia died, when I was overwhelmed with grief and paperwork, and Brian offered to help me manage the bills and accounts. He said it would make things easier for me. I had trusted him completely, and he had been stealing from me. My own son had been taking money from my account while treating me like an unwanted burden, while his wife complained that I wasn't paying them enough to justify my existence in their home. I sat there as the afternoon faded into evening, alone in that big empty house, and I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt angry. Not the explosive kind of anger, but the cold, determined kind, the kind that leads to action. Friday morning, I woke up with absolute clarity. I knew exactly what I needed to do. I would not wait for Brian and Melissa to come back from their vacation. I would not sit them down for a conversation or try to work things out. I would not beg for respect or try to make them see my value. I would simply leave. I would take back my dignity and rebuild my life on my own terms. I called Frank back first thing in the morning. "I'm taking you up on that offer," I said. "If the basement apartment is still available, I'd like to move to Colorado." I could hear the smile in Frank's voice. "It's absolutely still available, and we would be thrilled to have you, brother. When are you thinking?" "As soon as possible. They don't get back until next week. I want to be gone before they return." "Good for you, George. Carol is going to be so happy. She's been saying for months that we should have you come live with us. She misses having family around." After I hung up with Frank, I got to work. I researched moving companies that could do a quick job. Most places were backed up because of the holiday, but I found a company that had a cancellation and could come on Monday. That gave me 3 days to pack everything. I booked them immediately for a full-service move to Colorado. Then I drove to the bank. I walked in and asked to speak with a manager. A woman named Susan helped me. I explained the situation, showed her the unauthorized withdrawals, and told her I needed to remove my son's power of attorney immediately. Susan was sympathetic and professional. "Mr. Thompson, I'm so sorry this happened to you. We can absolutely remove the power of attorney today. I would also recommend opening a new account at a different bank, just to be safe. Once someone has had access to your account, even after we remove their authority, there can sometimes be complications." She helped me open a new account at a different bank across the street. Within 2 hours, I had transferred all of my money to the new account where Brian would have no access. I felt a sense of control returning to me. Next, I called a lawyer. Frank had given me the name of a family law attorney he knew. Her name was Dorothy Harrison, and she specialized in elder law. I explained the situation to her over the phone. She listened carefully, asking questions about the timeline and the amounts. "Mr. Thompson, what your son did is considered financial exploitation of an elderly person. In Texas, that's a serious offense. We could pursue criminal charges if you wanted to, but my recommendation would be to send a formal demand letter first. We document everything, demand the return of the funds, and make it clear that further action will be taken if he doesn't comply. Often, that's enough to resolve these situations without going to court. I just want my money back, I said, and I want him to know that what he did was wrong. We can absolutely make that happen. I'll draft the letter this week. But let's wait until after you've moved. I want you safely out of that house first. I spent Friday afternoon and all day Saturday packing my belongings. I was methodical about it. I took only what was truly mine. My clothes, my personal items, the photos of Patricia and our life together, her jewelry that I had been keeping safe for Emma when she got older, the quilts Patricia had made, my toolbox that I had owned since I was a young man. I packed up the furniture from my bedroom, which I had actually purchased myself after moving in because the room had been empty. I took my small television, my radio, my books. I left behind anything that belonged to them or that they had provided. I wasn't going to give them any excuse to claim I had taken something that wasn't mine. While I was packing boxes in my room on Saturday afternoon, I reached up to the top shelf of the closet to grab a box of old letters. My hand bumped against a folder I didn't recognize. I pulled it down and opened it. Inside were brochures and documents about a nursing home called Sunset Gardens. I felt my stomach drop as I flipped through the pages. There were cost estimates, comparison charts of different facilities, printed articles about how to know when it was time for a parent to move to assisted living. And there, in Melissa's handwriting on a notepad page, were notes from what looked like a meeting or a serious discussion. The notes read, "Dad needs more care than we can provide. This is best for everyone. Brian agrees. Costs less than having him here when you factor in groceries, utilities, wear and tear. Can visit him on weekends. Kids will understand. Need to approach this carefully after the holidays." I sat down on the edge of my bed, holding those papers, and I felt a wave of anger and betrayal unlike anything I had experienced so far. They had been researching, putting me in a nursing home, not because I needed medical care or assistance. I was healthy, active, and completely independent. I cooked, cleaned, drove, managed my own medications, exercised daily. There was absolutely no reason for me to be in assisted living. This was purely about getting me out of their house and out of their lives in a way that would look responsible to the outside world. They could tell people, "Oh, Dad's in a lovely facility where he gets professional care," and no one would question it. No one would know that they had essentially warehoused their healthy, competent father because he was an inconvenience. The Hawaii trip suddenly made even more sense. They were probably planning to come back relaxed and refreshed, and then sit me down to tell me they had found a wonderful place for me. They would frame it as being for my own good, for my own safety. They would make me feel like I was being difficult if I refused. But I wouldn't be here when they got back. They would walk into this house and find my room empty, and they would have to face what they had done. Monday morning arrived cold and clear. I had barely slept the night before, running through the plan over and over in my mind. The moving truck pulled up to the house at 8 o'clock sharp, right on schedule. 3 men got out, professional and efficient. I had everything ready for them. We're just taking items from one bedroom, some boxes, and a few pieces of furniture, I explained. It should be pretty straightforward. They worked quickly. Within 3 hours, they had loaded my bedroom furniture, which I had bought myself after moving in. They loaded all my clothes, my boxes of personal items, the containers with Patricia's belongings that I had carefully packed, my toolbox, my television, everything that mattered to me. The house looked barely touched. They had taken only what was mine. By 11 o'clock in the morning, the moving truck was loaded and ready to head to Colorado. I did one final walkthrough of the house, checking each room to make sure I hadn't forgotten anything important. When I walked into my now empty bedroom, I stood there for a moment. 2 years of my life had been spent in this room. 2 years of feeling increasingly unwanted, increasingly invisible. I felt no sadness leaving it behind. I felt only relief. I went to the kitchen and pulled out a piece of paper and a pen. I thought carefully about what I wanted to say. Part of me wanted to write a long letter explaining everything I had discovered, everything I felt, all the ways they had hurt me. But I decided against it. I wanted my exit to be as dignified as my presence had been. I wrote, "Brian and Melissa, I have moved to Colorado to live near Frank. The rent you collected for November should cover any inconvenience of my early departure. I have removed you from my bank account. My lawyer will be in touch regarding the unauthorized withdrawals. I hope your vacation was worth it. Take care of Emma and Lucas. They deserve better examples of family loyalty. Dad. I placed the note on the kitchen counter, exactly where they had left their note for me. I put my house key on top of it. Then I took one last look around the house that had never really felt like home, and I walked out the door. I followed the moving truck in my old pickup truck, the one vehicle I owned outright. It was a 12-hour drive from the Dallas suburbs to Frankstown in Colorado, a small city near Boulder. I had made this drive before to visit Frank, so I knew the route well. I put on some of Patricia's favorite music, old country songs that she used to sing along to, and I let myself think about her. I imagined what she would say if she could see me now. She would be proud of me for leaving. I knew that. Patricia never tolerated disrespect from anyone. She would be heartbroken about Brian, about how he had changed, about the man he had become. But she would tell me that I did the right thing by choosing myself. For the first time in 2 years, I felt free. I felt like myself again. Around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my phone started ringing. I glanced at the screen. It was Brian. I didn't answer. The phone rang again 5 minutes later, then again. Then Melissa started calling. I silenced my phone and kept driving. I had nothing to say to them yet. They could discover what I had discovered. They could feel what I had felt. They could sit with the consequences of their choices. When I stopped for gas in a bathroom break around 4 o'clock, I checked my phone. 17 missed calls. A dozen text messages. The messages started confused and quickly became frantic. From Brian. Dad, where are you? Call me back. Dad, this isn't funny. Where did you go? We came home early. Lucas got badly sunburned and Emma had an allergic reaction. We had to cut the trip short. Dad, please call me. From Melissa. George, we need to talk right now. This is ridiculous. You can't just leave. Brian is extremely upset. Call him immediately. I read through all of them without responding. So they had come home early. Their perfect luxury vacation had been cut short because of problems with the kids. They had arrived home Monday afternoon to find me gone. My room empty, just a note on the counter. I imagined the shock on their faces, the confusion, the anger. And underneath it all, maybe, just maybe, the first hint of understanding about what they had done. But I wasn't ready to talk to them yet. I had 12 hours of driving ahead of me. And then I had a new life to start. They could wait. I arrived at Frank's house Monday night at 10 o'clock in the evening. I was exhausted from the drive, emotionally drained from the past few days. But when Frank opened the door and pulled me into a hug, I felt something break loose inside me. His wife, Carol, was right behind him, hugging me just as tightly. Their 2 adult daughters, who were home visiting for the extended holiday weekend, came out to greet me with genuine warmth and welcome. Come on, George. We saved you some dinner, Carol said, leading me to the kitchen. You must be starving. They had kept a full Thanksgiving meal warm for me. Turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, green beans, cranberry sauce, rolls, everything. We sat around their kitchen table, and they asked me about the drive, made sure I was comfortable, told me about everything they had set up in the basement apartment for me. After dinner, Frank took me downstairs to show me my new home. The basement apartment was perfect. It had a separate entrance from the outside, so I could come and go independently. The main room was spacious, with room for a living area and a dining table. The bedroom was cozy and already furnished with a bed, dresser, and nightstand. The bathroom was updated and clean. The kitchen area had a full-size refrigerator, a stove, a microwave, plenty of counter space and cabinets. Carol went to the grocery store yesterday and stocked the fridge and pantry for you, Frank said. We set up the Wi-Fi down here, and the cable TV is all ready. We want you to feel at home, George. This is your place. You have complete privacy. But we're right upstairs if you need anything. I felt tears prickling at my eyes. I don't know how to thank you, Frank. You don't need to thank me. You're my brother. This is what family does. Real family. I slept better that night than I had in months, maybe years. I was exhausted, but it was the kind of exhaustion that comes after doing something difficult but necessary. I felt at peace. Tuesday morning, I woke up to find that my phone had exploded overnight. 50 missed calls. 27 from Brian, 18 from Melissa, 5 from a number I didn't recognize but later learned was Melissa's mother, who I had only met a handful of times. The voicemails were a progression of emotions. The first few from Brian were confused and concerned. "Dad, where are you? Please call me back. I'm worried about you." Then they shifted to frustrated. "Dad, this is getting ridiculous. We need to talk. You can't just disappear like this." Then angry. "Fine. If you're going to act like a child, that's your choice. But we need to discuss this like adults. Call me back now." Melissa's voicemails were less concerned and more accusatory from the start. "George, you've put us in a terrible position. Brian is devastated. How could you just abandon your grandchildren like this? Emma and Lucas are asking where Grandpa went, and we don't know what to tell them." The final voicemail, which came in late Monday night after I had already gone to sleep, was from Brian. His voice was cold and hard. "Fine. If this is how you want it, I'm done. Don't expect anything from me. You're on your own, old man. We opened our home to you, and this is how you repay us? Unbelievable." I listened to all of them while sitting at my new kitchen table, drinking coffee that Frank had brought down for me. Each voicemail made me more certain that I had made the right choice. Not once did either of them acknowledge what they had done wrong. Not once did they apologize for leaving me alone on Thanksgiving, for stealing from me, for planning to put me in a nursing home. It was all about how I had wronged them by leaving. Wednesday morning, I decided it was time to respond, but I would do it on my terms, in my way. I sent a single text message to Brian. "I am not abandoning Emma and Lucas. I am leaving a situation where I was treated as a tenant, a servant, and a bank account. You stole from me. You were planning to warehouse me in a nursing home. I will always love you, but I will not accept disrespect. When you are ready to have an honest conversation, I will be here. Until then, I need space." I blocked Melissa's number entirely. I had nothing to say to her, and she had proven that she had nothing constructive to say to me. I left Brian's number unblocked but turned off notifications. If he wanted to reach me, he could, but I wouldn't be checking constantly. For the next few days, I focused on settling into my new life. The moving truck arrived Wednesday afternoon, and Frank helped me unload everything and set up my furniture. Carol brought down some decorative items, throw pillows, and plants to make the space feel more homey. By Thursday, my apartment looked lived in and comfortable. I explored the neighborhood, drove around the town, got familiar with where everything was located. Frank took me on walks along the mountain trails near their house. The Colorado air was crisp and clean, and the views were stunning. I had forgotten what it felt like to simply enjoy being somewhere. Then, 10 days after Thanksgiving, I received a certified letter that had been forwarded from Brian's address to Frank's house. I signed for it and opened it with Frank sitting beside me at his kitchen table. It was from a lawyer, not Dorothy Harrison, not someone I had contacted. It was from a lawyer at Brian's law firm, a colleague of his. The letter was typed on official letterhead and used formal legal language that was clearly designed to intimidate me. The letter stated that I had abandoned my residence without proper notice, causing emotional distress to my family. It claimed that I was mentally unfit to make decisions about my living arrangements and suggested that Brian would be pursuing legal guardianship to protect my best interests. It demanded that I return to Texas immediately. It also claimed that I owed them money for damages to their home and for the emotional distress caused to Emma and Lucas by my sudden departure. The letter was full of legal jargon, but the message was clear. They were trying to scare me into coming back, and if that didn't work, they were threatening to have me declared incompetent. I felt my hands shaking as I read it. Frank read it over my shoulder, and I heard him curse under his breath. "This is garbage, George. Complete and total garbage. They're trying to bully you." "I know," I said quietly. "But it's still scary. What if they can actually do this? What if a judge believes them? They can't. You're completely competent. You're living independently. You're making your own decisions. This letter is probably unethical for Brian to even have his colleagues send. Let me call Dorothy Harrison right now. Frank called Dorothy and explained the situation. She asked us to scan and email the letter to her immediately. Within an hour, she called back. I could hear the amusement in her voice. Mr. Thompson, I've been practicing elder law for 23 years, and this is one of the most ridiculous letters I've ever seen. There's no basis for any of these claims. You're clearly competent. You moved yourself across state lines, set up your own living arrangements, and are managing your own affairs perfectly well. The fact that they're trying this shows how desperate they are. What do? I asked. You let me handle it. I'm going to draft a response that will shut this down immediately. Well, document the financial exploitation, reference the nursing home plans, make it clear that any attempt to pursue guardianship will be met with a countersuit for elder abuse and harassment. Trust me, once they get my letter, they'll back off. No lawyer wants to touch a case this week, and Brian's colleague probably didn't even know the full story when he agreed to send this. How long will it take? I asked. They'll have it ready to send by end of business Friday. They'll receive it early next week. I felt some of the tension leave my shoulders. Thank you, Dorothy. You're very welcome. You did the right thing by leaving, Mr. Thompson. Don't let them bully you into doubting that. True to her word, Dorothy Harrison worked quickly. By Friday afternoon, she had drafted a comprehensive response letter. She emailed me a copy before sending it, and I read it with Frank looking over my shoulder. The letter was perfect. It was professional, factual, and devastating. Dorothy laid out the timeline of events in clear detail. She documented the unauthorized withdrawals from my bank account, attaching copies of the bank statements highlighting the $500 monthly thefts. She described how I had discovered evidence that Brian and Melissa had been planning this Hawaii trip for 3 months without telling me. She referenced the nursing home documents I had found, noting that they showed a plan to institutionalize me despite my being fully competent and independent. The letter stated clearly that I was a 68-year-old man in good health, living independently in my own apartment, managing my own finances and daily affairs without any assistance. It noted that I had removed Brian's power of attorney through proper legal channels and had relocated to be closer to other family members who actually valued my presence. Then came the powerful part. Dorothy formally demanded the return of $3,000 in unauthorized withdrawals, plus interest. She stated that if the money was not returned within 30 days, we would pursue both civil and criminal charges for financial exploitation of an elderly person. She made it clear that any further harassment, including baseless threats of guardianship proceedings, would result in an immediate countersuit for elder abuse, emotional distress, and legal harassment. The letter concluded by noting that it was likely unethical for Brian to have used his position as an attorney to have a colleague send threatening correspondence to a family member, and that a copy of this response would be sent to the Texas State Bar if any further legal threats were made. She doesn't mess around, does she? Frank said with admiration. No, she doesn't. I agreed. I felt a surge of gratitude for Dorothy's fierce advocacy on my behalf. The letter was sent via certified mail on Monday. Then we waited. For 4 days, there was complete silence from Texas. No calls, no texts, no emails. It was eerie after the barrage of contact from before. I tried not to obsess over it, but I couldn't help checking my phone more often than usual. Then, on Friday evening, 11 days after I had left Texas, I received an email. It was from Brian's personal email address, not his work email. The subject line just said, "Please read." I opened it with Frank sitting beside me. The email was long, several paragraphs, and as I read it, I felt a complicated mix of emotions. Brian wrote, "Dad, I need you to know what's really been going on. My position at the firm is being eliminated. They've been downsizing for 6 months, and I found out in September that my job would be gone by the end of the year. I haven't told anyone except Melissa. The Hawaii trip was her idea. She said we needed to take one last nice vacation before everything fell apart financially. She said we could afford it if we were careful, and she really wanted to do something special for the kids before things got tight." The email continued. "I know, taking that extra money from your account was wrong. I was desperate. Our mortgage is $6,000 a month. The house was supposed to be an investment, but we're underwater on it now. Melissa has been spending money we don't have, trying to keep up with her friends, and I've been too weak to stop her. I thought if I could just get through a few more months, maybe I could find a new position and we'd be okay. He read it silently, his expression growing darker with each paragraph. What do you think? I asked him. Frank looked at me seriously. I think it's manipulation disguised as honesty. Look at the structure of this email, George. He admits to wrongdoing but immediately follows it with excuses. He blames Melissa for almost everything. He talks about his financial pressure but doesn't actually apologize. And that last part, about family helping each other and not involving lawyers, that's emotional manipulation. Hess trying to make you feel guilty for protecting yourself. I nodded slowly. You're right. I noticed something else too. Nowhere in this email does he actually say I'm sorry. He says he's ashamed. He's disappointed in himself, but he doesn't apologize to me. Exactly, Frank said. This email is about making himself feel better, not about making things right with you. I forwarded the email to Dorothy Harrison with a note asking for her perspective. She called me within an hour. Mr. Thompson, your brother is absolutely right. This is a classic manipulation tactic, as trying to appeal to your emotions, to get you to drop the legal demand for your money back. Don't fall for it. If he genuinely wanted to make things right, he would start by returning the money he stole and offering a sincere apology without conditions. So what should I do? I asked. Nothing. Don't respond to the email. Let my letter stand. Either he returns the money, or we proceed with legal action. It's that simple. I followed Dorothy's advice. I didn't respond to Brian's email. It was one of the hardest things I had done, staying silent when my son reached out, even if that reach was manipulative. But I knew responding would only open a door I needed to keep closed right now. 2 days later, on Sunday afternoon, I received a Facebook message from someone I didn't expect. It was from a woman named Jennifer, and her profile picture showed she was in her early 30s. It took me a moment to place her. She was Melissa's younger sister. The message said, Mr. Thompson, I hope it's okay that I'm reaching out to you this way. I got your name from the family Facebook group. I wanted you to know that I'm sorry for how my sister has treated you. I've been watching this situation unfold from the outside, and I needed to tell you the truth about some things. I messaged back. Hello, Jennifer. Yes, I remember you from a few family gatherings. What did you want to tell me? Her response came quickly. My sister has been manipulating Brian for years. I love Melissa because she's my sister, but am not blind to who she is. She married Brian because he's a lawyer and she thought he'd be rich. When his income turned out to be good but not spectacular, she resented it. She compares him constantly to our father, who's wealthy from a business he built. She's always trying to keep up with our parents' lifestyle on a fraction of their income. She continued. When Brian wanted you to move in, Melissa was furious. She didn't want you there. She thought it made them look poor, like they couldn't afford to live without a tenant. She's been poisoning Brian against you ever since you arrived. Little comments, little complaints, always making him feel like you were the problem. Brian used to defend you at first, but over time she wore him down. Another message. Last week I was at their house helping with the kids while they dealt with the aftermath of you leaving. Melissa was on the phone with one of her friends, and she was actually bragging about finally getting rid of the old man. She was laughing about how you fell for the Hawaii trip excuse and didn't even question it. I was disgusted. That's when I knew I had to reach out to you. A final message. The truth is, they needed you more than they admitted. Your rent money was covering their utility bills every month, and you watching the kids after school saved them about $1,000 a month in childcare costs. Now they're scrambling to figure out how to afford everything. But more than that, Emma and Lucas are heartbroken. They've been crying every day asking about you. They loved you, Mr. Thompson. You were the most stable, loving presence in their lives. Melissa and Brian are so caught up in their own problems that they don't see how much they're hurting their own children. I thought you should know that you did nothing wrong. This is all on them. I sat there reading and rereading Jennifer's messages, hearing the truth from someone inside the family, even someone from Melissa's side. validated everything I had been feeling. But the part about Emma and Lucas broke my heart. Those children had done nothing wrong. They had been loving, affectionate grandchildren, and I had disappeared from their lives without explanation. I thanked Jennifer for reaching out and told her I appreciated her honesty. Then I sat with the weight of knowing that my decision to save myself had caused pain to two innocent children who I loved deeply. 3 weeks after I left Texas, Dorothy Harrison called with news. Brian's lawyer had reached out to her. They wanted to negotiate a settlement. They know they're in the wrong, Mr. Thompson, Dorothy explained. The email Brian sent you actually helped our case because it was essentially a confession to the unauthorized withdrawals. His lawyer doesn't want this to go any further, and honestly, neither does Brian. If we pursue criminal charges for elder financial abuse, it could affect his law license. He could be disbarred. What are they offering? I asked. Full return of the $3,000, plus $500 for interest and your legal fees. In exchange, you sign a document agreeing not to pursue criminal charges. He also agrees to never contact you again unless you initiate contact first. I thought about it carefully. Part of me wanted to pursue the criminal charges, wanted there to be more consequences for what Brian had done. But another part of me, the part that was trying to move forward and build a new life, just wanted it to be over. I'll take the settlement, I said. I want my money back. I want acknowledgement in writing that he did wrong. But I don't want to spend the next year of my life in legal battles with my own son. I think that's wise, Dorothy said. I'll draw up the agreement. Within 5 days, the money was returned to my account, all $3,500. I had the signed settlement agreement documenting that Brian had made unauthorized withdrawals and was returning the funds. It felt like justice, even if it was quiet justice. Meanwhile, my life in Colorado was beginning to take shape in ways I hadn't expected. Frank's family had truly welcomed me as one of their own. Carol taught me how to make sourdough bread, something Patricia had always wanted to learn, but we never got around to. The process was meditative and satisfying. I would spend hours tending to the starter, kneading the dough, watching it rise. Frank and I started taking morning walks on the mountain trails near their house. We would walk for an hour or more, talking about everything and nothing, just being brothers in a way we hadn't been since we were young. The physical activity, the fresh air, the natural beauty of Colorado all helped heal something in me that had been broken. One day, Frank suggested I check out the local senior center. They have all kinds of activities and classes. He said, you might find something you enjoy. I went somewhat reluctantly, not sure I was ready to be part of a senior anything. But when I got there, I discovered they had a woodworking shop. I had always enjoyed woodworking, had built furniture and done projects around the house when Patricia and I were younger. I signed up for the open shop hours. That's where I met a group of other retired men who became fast friends. We worked on our individual projects but helped each other, shared tools and techniques, told stories. One of them, a retired teacher named Harold, who was 72, asked if I'd be interested in teaching a beginner woodworking class at the center. People had been asking for one, and the center needed a volunteer instructor. I agreed, and suddenly I had purpose again. Twice a week, I taught woodworking to a mixed group of seniors and younger people from the community. I loved it. I loved sharing the skills I had learned over decades. I loved seeing people's faces when they completed their first project. A birdhouse or a small shelf or a cutting board. It made me feel valuable in a way I hadn't felt in years. I also started attending a grief support group at a local church. I had never properly processed Patricia's death. I had gone from the immediate pain of losing her straight into the chaos of selling our house and moving to Texas. In Texas, I had been too busy trying to be useful, trying to earn my place, to really grieve. Now, with time and space and safety, I could finally let myself feel the full weight of losing my wife of 42 years. The group was small, just 6 or 7 people, all of us who had lost spouses. We met once a week and talked about our grief, our memories, our struggles with moving forward. It was painful but necessary work. I learned that grief doesn't have a timeline, that it was okay to still miss Patricia every single day, that moving forward didn't mean forgetting her. 4 weeks after I left Texas, In early January, I received a letter that changed everything. It came in the mail, addressed to me in careful, childish handwriting. I opened it and found a piece of notebook paper with writing in pink pen. Dear Grandpa George, I miss you so much. Lucas and I don't understand why you left. Mom says you wanted to live somewhere else, but I think she's not telling the truth. Did we do something wrong? I'm sorry if we made you mad. Please write back. I love you. Emma. Inside the envelope was also a drawing. It showed a family, stick figures with labels. There was Mom, Dad, Emma, and Lucas, all standing together on one side. On the other side, standing apart, was a figure labeled Grandpa George with a sad face. I sat at my kitchen table holding that letter and cried for the first time since leaving Texas. Not tears of anger or pain or frustration, but tears of pure heartbreak for those children who didn't understand what had happened and who thought they had somehow driven me away. I called Frank upstairs and showed him the letter. He read it and his eyes got misty too. Those poor kids, he said softly. I need to respond, I said. But I don't know what to say. How do I explain this to a 9-year-old? You tell her the truth, in a way she can understand, Frank said. You tell her she did nothing wrong. You tell her you love her, and then you decide if you want to have a relationship with those kids, even if you don't have one with Brian and Melissa. I talked with Dorothy Harrison about it too. She advised me carefully. You have every right to maintain a relationship with your grandchildren if you want to, but you need to set clear boundaries. Any contact should go through you first, not through Brian or Melissa. You're in control of this. I spent 2 days writing and rewriting a letter to Emma. I wanted to get it exactly right. Finally, I had something I was satisfied with. Dear Emma, thank you so much for your letter. It meant the world to me. I want you to know something very important. You and Lucas did absolutely nothing wrong. Nothing at all. I left Texas because I needed to make a change in my life that had nothing to do with you. Sometimes adults have to make hard decisions about where to live and how to be happy. It doesn't mean I stopped loving you or Lucas. I love you both more than you can imagine. I think about you every single day. I'm living in Colorado now with your great-uncle Frank and Aunt Carol. It's very beautiful here, with mountains and trails and lots of snow in the winter. I have my own little apartment and I've been keeping busy with woodworking and making new friends. I would love it if you wanted to call me or write to me. I'm going to put my phone number and my address on this letter. You can call me anytime you want, or write to me, or even email me if your parents say it's okay. I'm always here for you and Lucas. You are both such special kids, and I'm so proud to be your grandfather. Love, always, Grandpa George. I included a separate package with the letter. For Emma, I had made a small jewelry box in my woodworking class, with her name carved on the lid. For Lucas, I had made a toy car that actually rolled. I wrapped them carefully and sent everything to Brian's house, addressed to the children. A week later, my phone rang. The number was Brian's house. I answered cautiously. Grandpa George, it was Emma's voice, high and excited. Emma, sweetheart, it's so good to hear your voice. I got your letter in the jewelry box. It's so pretty. I'm keeping all my special things in it. Lucas loves his car, has been playing with it every day. We talked for 20 minutes. She told me about school, about her friends, about a book she was reading. I told her about Colorado, about the mountains, about the birds I saw on my morning walks. It was natural and easy and full of love. Lucas got on the phone for a few minutes too, telling me about his car and excited 7-year-old babble. Before we hung up, Emma said, Grandpa, can we come visit you sometime? Mom and Dad said maybe we could visit in the summer. I would love that, I said, meaning it completely. You can come visit any time. After I hung up, I felt lighter than I had in months. I could have a relationship with my grandchildren even if my relationship with their parents was broken. They didn't have to pay for the sins of their mother and father. Over the next few months, life settled into a rhythm. Emma and I talked on the phone every week. Sometimes Lucas would get on too. They sent me drawings and letters. I sent them photos of Colorado, small gifts I made in my woodworking class, postcards from places Frank and I visited. In late February, 3 months after I left Texas, my phone rang late one evening. It was Brian. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Dad. His voice was different, quiet, stripped of defensiveness or anger or excuses. Brian, I said neutrally, I need to say something, and I need you to just listen. Okay? Okay. I'm sorry. His voice broke on the words. I'm so deeply sorry for everything, for taking your money, for treating you like you didn't matter, for letting Melissa poison me against you, for planning to put you in that nursing home, for leaving you alone on Thanksgiving, for all of it. You were right about everything. I failed you as a son. I failed to honor Mom's memory. I forgot every value you and Mom taught me. I stayed silent, letting him continue. Melissa and I are in marriage counseling. She's finally starting to see how toxic her behavior has been. Though, honestly, I don't know if we're going to make it. I lost my job, and we're selling the house. We're moving to a smaller place, something we can actually afford. I'm trying to become a better father to Emma and Lucas. They miss you so much, Dad. They talk about you constantly. Would it be okay if they visited you this summer? I could drive them out there, stay in a hotel, give you time with them without me hovering. Yes, I said simply. That would be okay. I don't expect you to forgive me, Brian continued. I don't even know if I deserve to be forgiven, but I want you to know that I'm working on becoming the man you raised me to be. It's going to take time, and I've got a long way to go, but I'm trying. For the first time, I heard genuine remorse in my son's voice, not excuses, not manipulation, just honest acknowledgement of what he had done wrong. Brian, I do forgive you, I said quietly. Not because what you did was okay. It wasn't. But because holding on to anger would poison me, not you. Your mother would want me to leave the door open for you to find your way back. But understand this, forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting or going back to how things were. You broke my trust. That takes time to rebuild. Maybe a lot of time. I understand, he said, and I could hear tears in his voice. I'm proud that you're getting help and trying to be better. I continued. That takes real courage. The kids can absolutely visit me this summer. I would love that. But Brian, I'm happy here in Colorado. I have a good life here. I have purpose and peace and people who value me. I'm not coming back to Texas. If we're going to rebuild our relationship, it's going to be different than before. You're my son and I'll always love you. But I'm not the same man I was on Thanksgiving morning. I know, Dad, I know. And I'm glad you're happy. You deserve to be happy. We talked for another 10 minutes, carefully and honestly. When we hung up, I felt a tentative hope that maybe, someday, I could have my son back. Not the relationship we had before, which was broken at its foundation, but something new and healthier. 6 months after that Thanksgiving morning, I stood in Frank's backyard during a 4th of July barbecue. The weather was perfect, sunny and warm with a slight breeze. Emma and Lucas were visiting for 2 weeks. Brian had driven them out, stayed one night in a hotel to make sure they were settled, and then driven back to Texas. He was giving me space with the kids, respecting the boundaries I had set. Emma and Lucas were running around the yard with Frank's grandchildren who had come up from Denver for the holiday. Their laughter filled the air. Carol was at the grill with Frank, making hamburgers and hot dogs. Frank's daughters were setting out potato salad and coleslaw and watermelon. It was a perfect summer day, full of family and love. Lucas ran up to me, his face flushed from playing. Grandpa George, can we go hiking tomorrow? Uncle Frank said there's a trail where we might see elk. Absolutely, buddy. Well, leave first thing in the morning. Emma joined us, giving me a side hug. I'm so glad we're here, Grandpa. I missed you so much. I missed you too, sweetheart. Frank walked over and put a hand on my shoulder. You doing okay, brother? I nodded, looking around at this scene of family and belonging. Yeah, Frank, I'm doing more than okay. I thought about Patricia then, about how she would have loved this day. She would have loved seeing her grandchildren happy and running in the mountain air. She would have loved seeing me surrounded by family who valued me. I felt her presence, like a warm hand on my shoulder, and I heard her voice in my mind saying what she always said when things worked out. "See, George? Everything happens for a reason." I learned something profound that Thanksgiving and in the months that followed. When people show you who they are, believe them. When your own worth is questioned by people who should love you, don't argue or beg or try to prove your value. Just walk away and build something better. Family is supposed to lift you up, not tear you down. Blood doesn't make someone family. Respect, love, and genuine care make someone family. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is save yourself, even when it means disappointing people who stopped caring about disappointing you. I woke up on Thanksgiving morning to an empty house and a note that dismissed me like I was nothing. But what I found in that emptiness was something I had lost in the 2 years of living in Texas. I found myself. I found my dignity, my self-respect, my sense of worth. I found my voice to say, I deserve better than this. And that discovery, that reclamation of myself, was worth more than any luxury vacation could ever be. It was worth more than keeping false peace in a broken relationship. It was worth more than the comfort of staying in a situation that was slowly killing my spirit. I spent 2 years trying to earn my place in my son's home, trying to be useful enough, helpful enough, invisible enough to justify my existence there. And in the end, the only way I could reclaim my life was to leave behind people who saw me as a burden rather than a blessing. Now I stand in Colorado, surrounded by people who genuinely want me here, doing work that brings me joy, living in a place that feels like home. My grandchildren visit and call and write because they want to, not because they're obligated. My son is slowly, carefully trying to become a better man, and I'm giving him the space to do that while protecting my own peace. I'm 68 years old, and I learned that it's never too late to start over. It's never too late to choose yourself. It's never too late to demand the respect and love you deserve. And sometimes, when you walk away from people who don't value you, you walk straight into the arms of people who do. That empty house on Thanksgiving morning felt like the end of everything, but it was actually the beginning of the life I deserved all along. Now, I want to ask you something. Have you ever had to make a hard choice to protect yourself, even when it meant walking away from people you loved? Have you ever found yourself in a situation where you were giving everything and getting nothing in return? How did you find the courage to leave? I'd love to hear your stories in the comments below. If this story touched your heart or made you think about your own relationships, please hit that like button. And if you want to hear more stories about real life, real struggles, and real courage, subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Share this with someone who might need to hear it, someone who might be struggling with their own difficult family situation. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here. I hope that whatever you're going through, you remember that you deserve respect, you deserve love, and you deserve to be valued. Never forget that. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you in the next story.